What is up, guys? So in honor of me hitting 20,000 subscribers, which by the way, that number is insane. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel and tuning into my videos. I really appreciate it. But in honor of that, I asked you guys to ask me questions for another Q&A. This time it's a 20,000 subscriber special Q&A, and I don't know how long the video is going to be at this point, but I'm guessing it's going to be a pretty long video. So with that in mind, let's get into your guys' questions. Are you going to return to MCU videos? I miss those. Can you do a few videos about Freedom Fighters the Race? So in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this channel is more oriented toward DC because I'm more familiar with DC. I am a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I do make videos about it occasionally, such as trailer breakdowns and reviews, and I might make a top 10 here or there, but in terms of frequently making Marvel videos, probably not. And in terms of Freedom Fighters of the Ray, it's not. I really don't have anything to say about it that I haven't already, and it's barely connected to the Arrowverse anyway, so I'm probably not going to make a lot of videos about that either. Congrats. Are you going to do a face cameo? No. What are your expectations for the DCEU? Well, after Justice League came out, they were pretty low. I mean, that movie was not good, and the universe just didn't look interesting enough to have very high expectations. Even Aquaman, my expectations were pretty low, but then Aquaman actually came out, and it really surprised me how good it was, and I definitely think they could do something with this universe. I mean, Shazam looks pretty good as well, so hopefully the DCU has some sort of revival and rebound where they are on par with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would definitely love that. Favorite non-superhero movie? It's hard to say what my favorite non-superhero movie is, but I would say last year in 2018, my favorite non-superhero movie was easily Mission Impossible Fallout. The action in that movie was just next level, so that was my favorite non-superhero movie of 2018. Aside from that, like of all time, it's really hard to decide, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Favorite Young Justice episode? There are so many good ones, it's hard to choose, but I would say maybe Failsafe, the episode in Season 1 where they are in this virtual reality training exercise and they don't know it for the most part. I loved that episode. The twist at the end is so insane. So Failsafe, maybe, but there are just so many good Young Justice episodes that it is also, just like non-superhero movies, pretty hard to decide. Which Arrowverse season is your favorite right now? Well, it's obviously between Arrow and The Flash, just because Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow are not shows that I love, like, at all, especially compared to Arrow and The Flash. And I would say this season, Arrow has been better so far, but that being said, I think the latter half of Season 7 of Arrow doesn't look as good as the latter half of Season 5 of The Flash, so we will have to wait and see which season will be the best yet, but I would say so far this season, Arrow has been the best. Congrats, man, you deserve it. My question would be, do you read many comics? Thank you for the congratulations, and yes, I do read many comics, mostly DC, just because I'm a much bigger fan of the DC universe, and I think their comic books are just far better at the moment. The only Marvel comics I read are Spider-Man, because he is my favorite superhero, so I really do want to read his comics, but aside from that, I don't read any Marvel comics. For DC, I do read like Green Arrow, The Flash, Batman, the new Young Justice that just came out. I really like that. Quite a lot of comics from DC that they update every week that I do enjoy quite a lot. So yeah, I do read many comics. Just basically every Wednesday I sit down for a little bit and read some comics. What do you think? How many seasons will Arrow still run? Greetings from Germany. Well, I have answered this before, and I think I said that I wanted to run for 10 seasons, but it might not get past Season 7. At this point, I do think it will make it to Season 8, just because looking at the CW's ratings, Arrow is still one of their most popular shows, despite the ratings not being that good compared to other channels or other networks, but still, there are other shows that will be canceled before Arrow, specifically Legends of Tomorrow and Black Lightning, so I'm pretty sure, just also going off the Crisis on Infinite Earths tease, Arrow will get a Season 8, but Season 8 might be its last season. What was the first comic you read? I'm not exactly sure what the first comic I ever read was, but I do think that as a kid, I mostly did read Archie comics. In terms of superhero comic books, the first comic I read, I'm going to guess, is the Lightning Saga, which I did talk about in a previous video, the previous video that I mentioned, and I really do like that storyline. It has a lot of nostalgia for me, and in that video I went over why I think they should really adapt it to Young Justice season. How do you feel about the Dark Knight trilogy? To be honest, I used to really not like it, and I think the reason was because Batman in this trilogy felt so not badass to me. I'm just comparing it to the Arkham games, which I always loved the Arkham games. Batman just felt so mild. It felt like he didn't know what he was doing in the fight scenes for the most part, and I still think That is the biggest problem with this trilogy, but it's pretty easy to ignore when you just look at the villains and the script and all the action set pieces outside of Batman's actual fight scenes. This trilogy is really, really good. I think Batman Begins is a great start. The Dark Knight is an amazing movie. It's probably the best DC movie ever. And although I do think The Dark Knight Rises is a pretty disappointing ending to this trilogy, it is still a pretty great trilogy nonetheless. Although I definitely don't think it's the best superhero trilogy of all time, nor is it the second best. I would say Captain America is the greatest superhero trilogy of all time, and maybe even movie trilogy of all time, and then the Avengers, and then The Dark Knight. For the Q&A, do you rather change Cicada as the main villain of The Flash to Eobard Thawne, or just keep Cicada as the main villain and keep Reverse Flash as the side plot? I have said this previously, but I definitely want Cicada to stay as the main villain. I really don't like villain swaps in any form of media, like in Luke Cage or in The Defenders. They did this villain swap that I really don't like, so I hope they don't do that here. I think Cicada, even though he's not the greatest main villain so far, he definitely could become a great main villain, so just let him be the main villain for the rest of the season, and Reverse Flash could return as the main villain in Season 6 or any future season after that. Congrats on your 20,000 subscribers. Been here since 3,000 subscribers. Thank you for sticking around. Are you looking forward to Titan Season 2? I definitely am, even though I think the season had its ups and downs. I do think that this universe in general is very, very interesting, and I am excited for Season 2 of Titans. I definitely think they could do a lot. Do you still like Legends, and do you think it will be canceled? So I touched on earlier whether or not it will be canceled when I said that Black Lightning and Legends of Tomorrow are more likely to be canceled this season than Arrow, so I do think Legends of Tomorrow may possibly be currently on its last season. And to answer your first question, do you still like Legends? I'm going to say that if it does get canceled, I would not mind that. I'm not really invested in this show anymore. It's become a completely different show, and the main reason I don't review it anymore, aside of the time slot and all the scheduling difficulties, is because it's no longer a superhero show. It's more of a comedy, which is fine, but I don't really review comedies. That's the main reason I don't review Legend of Tomorrow anymore, and since the fact that it used to be a superhero show and now it's a comedy, I don't like that change at all. So at this point, I don't really love Legend of Tomorrow. I don't really like it anymore, and if it gets canceled, then I definitely would not mind that cancellation. Have you ever thought about making merch? I definitely have thought about it, but I'm not going to do it anytime soon. I don't think I have a large enough audience to support making merch. Once I get like 50,000, maybe 100,000 subscribers, if I ever do, then I probably maybe will start making merch if you guys really want me to. Do you think Diaz should have a redemption arc or be part of a new Suicide Squad, or end up betraying Diggle and coming back even bigger and more dangerous than last time? Well, in terms of whether or not he should have any of these things, I would say no. I think that the episode 7 of season 7 was such a great ending to this character, and I don't think he should ever come back. He will. He is a series regular this season, and he probably will have some sort of arc in this season. He might even end up being the main villain of the season again. I'm not really sure, but I don't want him to get a redemption arc. He shouldn't be a part of a new Suicide Squad, and the whole storyline with Diggle shouldn't really happen if it's connected to Ricardo Diaz, or like Ricardo Diaz shouldn't be a part of that storyline. Do you think there will be a crossover after Crisis on Infinite Earths? I do think so. Yes, I mean, they definitely can't go anywhere but down from there, but that doesn't mean they can't make another crossover, considering after Crisis on Infinite Earths, the next season, I'm sure there will be a Flash and Batwoman TV show. Arrow might still be there, I'm not sure. I don't think Supergirl and Legend of Tomorrow will be there anymore, but there will be at least Batwoman and the Flash, and maybe they'll make a Superman show, maybe they'll make a couple other shows in the Arrowverse. So I do think whenever there's an Arrowverse show, or whenever there's at least 2 Arrowverse TV shows on the CW, or really anywhere, there will be an annual crossover. Can you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what happened to the White Line? So for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I have tried to get into it so many times, like at the beginning of it, and when Ghost Rider showed up, I did like those episodes, and I did watch those episodes, but every single time I start watching the show, and I've done it like multiple times, I lose interest so damn quickly. Like, if this show was purely Ghost Rider, I definitely would watch it, but I'm not really interested in anything outside of that, so I will not be reviewing or even watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In terms of the White Line, I was really fooling myself to think that I could really handle 2 different channels at once. It's possible in the summer, but now it's definitely not, and even in the summer, it's not something that I want to do, make 2 videos every single day. So the White Line is a channel that is dead, and most likely will be dead forever. And for Marvel videos, I have been posting them on this channel, and I will continue to do that for the rest of my career. Thoughts on all of the politics in Supergirl in Season 4? Well, I have made a video titled Politics Ruin Entertainment, which is a review on Supergirl Season 4, Episode 2, so that should probably give you a clue about what I think about these politics. I don't actually think that politics necessarily ruin entertainment. I just think that when it's handled poorly, like it is in Supergirl Season 4, it definitely is ruining the entertainment that Supergirl should be and really never has been. Do you think Reverse Flash will somehow get out and kill Iris this season? It might be likely, since he does it in the comics. Well, a lot of things have happened in the comics. That particular storyline, the one where Barry and Iris are at a Halloween party and Reverse Flash kills Iris, that was from a very long time ago, and it's only been done once, and it has obviously been retconned. Iris was alive after that, and now she's alive in the New 52 universe, so she's not going to die. I don't think she will ever die on the show, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. I don't love her as a character, but she is Iris West, the main love interest to Barry Allen, so I do think if they just minimalize her role, make her not really affiliated with Team Flash anymore, I would have absolutely no problem with her sticking around for the rest of the show. In fact, I don't really want her to die. It would be kind of hypocritical if I did, considering I want Felicity to not be with Oliver because she is Black Canary. If I said that I want Iris to be with Barry, or I want her to die, that would be pretty hypocritical, and I definitely do not want those things. What is your favorite episode so far on The Flash Season 5 and Arrow Season 7? Well, for Arrow, it is easily the Slabside Redemption, with Elseworlds Part 2 and Inmate 4587 being not that far behind. For The Flash Season 5, it is Elseworlds Part 1, but excluding the crossover, it is what's past its prologue. What is the best DCEU and MCU movie? Well, something I literally just realized is, coincidentally, both the best movies of the DC Extended Universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe came out in 2018, those being Aquaman and Avengers Infinity War. Do you think Legends of Tomorrow will be canceled for a Superman TV show? Well, I don't think if Legends of Tomorrow gets canceled, it will be for anything except for low ratings. I don't think it'll be canceled in order for them to make room for a Superman TV show, but I do think it will be canceled, and I do think that a Superman TV show is definitely possible, and much more possible than ever. We have been told before that Elseworlds was a testing ground to see if people like Superman, or this version of Superman, and although people's reactions to Superman's use were definitely mixed, I personally did not like how he was used in Part 3, but in general, people do like the actor of Tyler Hoechlin in the role, and I definitely think so many people want a Superman TV show. Elizabeth Tulloch has said that it is definitely possible, and they have such a cast already. They have Tyler Hoechlin as Clark Kent, they have Elizabeth Tulloch as Lois Lane, they have John Cryer as Lex Luthor. I see no reason why they shouldn't make this TV show, so I definitely think it's possible, and it might even be likely. Do you think that Ezra Miller's Flash was a little weird? I think that he was a little bit more than a little weird. He was very weird. He was like one of the worst castings for a character of all time, really, and a great comparison I have, at least connected to the Arrowverse, is Ezra Miller's Flash acted like Brainiac 5 acts on Supergirl, which works incredibly well for the awkward and not even human Brainiac 5, but for Barry Allen, it really doesn't work. It's so crazy that they cast Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. He doesn't look like Barry Allen, he doesn't act like Barry Allen, and on Justice League or in Justice League, he couldn't even run correctly, so I do think Ezra Miller was a terrible casting, and the way they used him was pretty bad as well. He was generally entertaining, but he just didn't act or look or even run like Barry Allen, aka The Flash, and I do think Grant Gustin is miles better. What is your name? Well, I don't fully feel comfortable telling the internet what my full name is, but what the hell, I'll just tell you guys my last name. My last name is Schwartz, which in German means black, which is where I get the black part of my nickname, or my YouTube name, The Black Lion. The lion part is from my first name, which you will have to guess in the comments, and I doubt you will get it right, and that does mean I have the same last name as the current showrunner behind Arrow Season 7, Beth Schwartz, and we are definitely not related. Schwartz is the second most common Jewish name in the world, so if you meet a Schwartz, most likely he's not related to another Schwartz you might know. What were your thoughts when Stephen Amell said oof when you compared Tumblr to Arrow Season 4? I pretty much summed up my thoughts in my reply to that, which was, holy shit, it was insane that Stephen Amell replied to me on Twitter, and it's also pretty insane that he knows that Arrow Season 4 is not a good season. He said this before in one interview, or like he was talking to a whole bunch of people at a panel. Somebody asked him to rank all the seasons, and his ranking was Season 1, Season 5, Season 2, Season 3, and that is it. This is at a time when there were only 5 seasons, and he didn't even mention Season 4 to say that he's kind of embarrassed by that season, and I definitely see where he's coming from. Season 4 is ridiculously bad. I don't think it's his fault at all, really. He gave it his all even in Season 4, but Season 4 is a pretty huge embarrassment to the show. So in terms of my reactions, I summed it up with holy shit. It was insane that Stephen Amell actually replied to me on Twitter. If you had to choose any CW superhero show to be canceled right now, which one would you choose? First of all, why are there so many questions talking about canceled DC TV shows? But anyway, you didn't specify the Arrowverse, so I'm just going to say Black Lightning. If you meant really the Arrowverse, then probably Legends of Tomorrow or Supergirl. I think Supergirl has more potential at this point, like to use DC characters. I mean, they could use Martian Manhunter and the Legion of Superheroes and Superman. Legends of Tomorrow, all they really have is Constantine, so I would probably prefer it if Legends of Tomorrow was canceled. But since you didn't specify the Arrowverse, I'm going to say Black Lightning. Who is your favorite villain from each Arrowverse show? For Arrow, it is Prometheus, which you guys already know that by now. But for The Flash, it is Reverse Flash. For Legends of Tomorrow, it is the Legion of Doom, which is mainly Reverse Flash as well. And for Supergirl, it is their only good main villain so far, which is Rain, who was so wasted by the end. Do you think Captain Marvel will be good? Based off the first couple trailers, it didn't look amazing or anything, but the latest trailer did look like a lot of fun, so I don't think all the criticism is necessarily fair to Captain Marvel, saying that she's not smiling enough, saying that she is too much of a Mary Sue already. I do think she probably will be too much of a Mary Sue, but I don't think this movie will be terrible because of it. And I mean, Marvel doesn't usually let us down for the most part with their movies, so I don't think this will be a bad movie. I also don't think it will be the best Captain Marvel movie of 2019. Which TV shows are you going to review this year, excluding the Arrowverse shows? Well, I'm going to include the Arrowverse shows because I'm not even reviewing all the Arrowverse shows, but all the TV shows I will be reviewing this year for sure are Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Titans, if it does come back this year for a second season, Young Justice, Outsiders, and Doom Patrol. Other TV shows I might be reviewing, and I probably will be, are all the DC Universe TV shows like Swamp Thing and Stargirl, but I definitely will not be reviewing Harley Quinn because I really do not want to watch that. If you were to meet an actor not in the Arrowverse, who would it be and why? Well, since we are excluding the Arrowverse, I would want to meet Stephen Amell from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Into the Shadows, which is not a movie I've ever seen, but we are excluding the Arrowverse, and I just really wanted to meet Stephen Amell. He is easily my favorite actor at the moment, and I do think that there's not really many actors that I really want to meet. It's not like something that I think about constantly, meeting actors, but Stephen Amell is my favorite actor, so meeting him would definitely be cool. Thoughts on the theory that the Dark Knight trilogy is part of the Arrowverse? This is a theory I was actually going to make a video about right after Elseworlds came out, but I never did because it just doesn't add up. I further researched it and made sure that everything lined up, and it actually didn't. It's unfortunate because I did really want to talk about it and make a video about it, but it just didn't make any sense because if you're looking at the timeline in Elseworlds, we're told that Batman has been missing for 3 years, which would put him leaving Gotham City at 2015. In the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman did go missing in The Dark Knight Rises, but that movie takes place in 2016, and it probably ends in 2017, as The Dark Knight takes place in 2008. And then The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years after The Dark Knight, which would put it at 2016. But since the movie takes 6 months to end, like the whole movie is 6 months long in the timeline, and it ends in the winter, this means that it either takes place or it ends, and Batman goes missing in either December 2016 or January/February 2017, which is not 3 years before Elseworlds. It is 1 or 2, which definitely would not work. Now, it is possible that Flashpoint changed everything, where it made the whole timeline of The Dark Knight Rises take place just a year or two earlier. That's definitely possible, but it's also the problem of Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul being completely different characters, so I don't think this trilogy is a part of the Arrowverse Earth 1, but it is possible that it is a part of the multiverse. What football team do you support? I do not watch sports at all. If you mean soccer, I've never watched a soccer game. If you mean football as an American football, then I used to watch football a little bit, but I haven't watched the game in a really long time. If you want to ask a question about sports, you should probably ask my brother. Which series has better fight scenes, Arrow or John Wick? Well, I think for John Wick, it's objectively better in terms of the fight scenes. That's like their biggest thing. Their fight scenes are insane. Arrow has some great fight scenes, but John Wick has such a bigger budget, and they have so much more production design and everything like that, and the choreography is incredible. John Wick has incredible fight scenes. I'm not really complaining here about Arrow in the slightest. Their fight scenes are great, but they're not going to compare to a whole movie franchise or two movies that has a much bigger budget that just is entirely action and fight scenes. But Arrow, on its small budget, is incredible in terms of its fight scenes. Do you think Barry and Cara will die in the next crossover? Well, in the comics, if you don't know, Crisis on Infinite Earths, really the two biggest casualties of that whole thing are the Flash and Supergirl, which is the same exact characters as two of the three biggest characters in this universe. So Crisis on Infinite Earths was perfect for this universe, and I do think they should really stay true to the comics where Barry and Cara do die. After that, Cara never really needs to come back, as her show will most likely get canceled after that season, or maybe even before that. And for Barry, he should die for a little bit, have Wally take over for a couple episodes, maybe even like a whole rest of the season, and then Barry returns similarly to how he returned in the comics. What new DC show do you want? Well, that's a hard question to answer. What new DC show do you want is a pretty hard question to answer, because I want every superhero in the DC universe to have their own show. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Shazam, Aquaman, so many characters who have never had a show or haven't had one in a really long time definitely could have one. Part of the Arrowverse, part of the Titansverse, part of its own thing. I do care, actually. I was going to say I don't care, but I do. I want it to be a part of the Arrowverse if it's a character that's never appeared before. But this is a hard question to answer because I want every superhero to have their own DC TV show. That would be insane. Who do you think is going to die in The Flash Season 5? Well, I have mentioned before that I think either Caitlin or Cisco should die. And since Cisco, his death was already teased earlier and then it was a fake out, Caitlin would make the most sense. And a couple people said that she should move to Legends, but I think Legends will be canceled anyway, so that wouldn't work. So I do think they should probably kill off Caitlin in this season, or maybe Cisco Ramon or Joe West. I actually don't think Joe West could be killed off. I think he has already left the show pretty well. He doesn't appear in the episodes, and it makes sense. He shouldn't really appear anymore. For Cisco and Caitlin, it wouldn't really make any sense if they just stop appearing in general. So I think one or both of them need to be killed off, and I think Caitlin would make the most sense this season, but Cisco would also make sense as well. Do you want Daredevil to appear in Endgame and maybe eventually get a movie? In terms of Endgame, I do want him to appear, but it's not possible. The Marvel movies are not allowed to use Daredevil and the rest of the Netflix shows that have been canceled for 2 years. In terms of a movie, 100% yes, either that or a Disney Plus or Disney Play, whatever it's called, a TV show, because they left Season 3 on a cliffhanger with with Bullseye becoming a Bullseye or becoming Bullseye, and they never resolved that, and they should definitely make that into a Daredevil movie, which would be incredible. How would you introduce the pre-New 52 Wally West into the Arrowverse? Well, it's pretty hard to say. I think that the only option they have at this point is to introduce an alternate reality Wally West, like a version of Wally West that is white and ginger, and maybe introduce them into Earth 1, or maybe after Crisis on Infinite Earths, all the universes can merge, and out of that, there is this new Wally West from a different universe that because of Crisis on Earth X retcon, he has been on Earth 1 this entire time, because they can't really introduce a long-lost cousin or nephew or brother, something like that. They already did that with the other Wally West. They can't say that he is, because of Flashpoint, they could bring him back. They already did that, so I think he should be from another universe and then be merged into Earth 1 through Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I do really like this question. Would you rather see a Red Hood and the Outlaws TV show on DC Universe or a Teen Titans show in the Arrowverse? And congrats on 20,000 subscribers. Thank you for that. Congratulations. And I would prefer a Red Hood and the Outlaws TV show. Reason being, we already have a Teen Titans TV show, and even though it would be cool to see like Kid Flash and Arsenal and some other new characters interact and be a team in the Arrowverse, we already have a Teen Titans TV show, and we already have multiple Teen Titans TV shows like Teen Titans Go, Young Justice, which is kind of Teen Titans, and Titans, which is Titans, and Red Hood is one of my favorite DC characters, probably my second favorite member of the Batman family, right behind Batman. And I did like the comic book Red Hood and the Outlaws, the one with Artemis and Bizarro, so I do think this is a TV show I would want to see more than a Teen Titans TV show in the Arrowverse. I know you talked about that you want to see Cisco/Caitlin be killed off this season because they're a bit useless, and I agree, but who would Arrow kill off at the end, because they have some useless characters as well? Well, I have mentioned this in the past, but Diggle and Felicity are characters I want them to kill off. For Diggle, I've kind of changed my mind because of this whole new thing, which his alternate doppelganger, which is Jon Stewart, he could possibly become a Green Lantern himself, so I don't want Diggle to be killed off anymore. But Felicity, yes, 100% should be killed off. I think Renee can't really do anything anymore, although he can't be killed off because he is alive in the future. So in terms of Arrow, really it's just Felicity that I think they really need to get rid of. Are you excited for the new Batwoman TV show? I wouldn't call it excited. I am definitely intrigued, but there are some things that are worrying, such as the fact that Supergirl is real bad, and they might do the same thing with Batwoman, which is be pretty feminist, be pretty political at times, because we are told in a synopsis for this whole show that Batwoman has an affinity for social justice, which is definitely not promising. But I did like Batwoman enough in Elseworlds, and the Bat family has never been explored before in live action in a TV show like this. It's really mainly just been Batman and Robin. So Batwoman is a character that I am a little bit interested in, and I'm not excited for the show, but I am definitely intrigued. What kind of Wells do you think they should do next? Which Wells has been your favorite? Well. I think Harry Wells in Season 2 was my favorite Wells. I did like Harrison Wells in Season 1 as well. Didn't really like HR. Harry Wells kind of sucked in Season 4. And I do kind of like Sherlock at this point. But what kind of Wells do you think they should do next? I don't think they should do another one. Sherlock should be the last. And I do think he should leave after Season 5. I think Season 5 should be Tom Cavanaugh's last hurrah as a cast member on the show. He has kind of overstayed his welcome at this point. Again, I loved him in Season 1 as well as in Season 2, but after that, he should have left. His whole Harrison Wells thing is so redundant and so repetitive. I really don't like it at all. Him as Reverse Flash never makes any sense outside of the context of Season 1, and right before that, like everything between when he got to the present day all the way up to Season 1. Outside of that, it should be Matt Letcher, so I don't think Tom Cavanagh should stick around on the show after Season 5. So to answer your question, what kind of Wells do you think they should do next? They shouldn't. Do you still go to school? If so, how do you have time to make your video? I do still go to school. I am in 12th grade, so this is obviously my last year of high school, but I have time to make a video because it doesn't really take that long to make a video. It takes maybe 2-3 hours at most, which is why I can make 2 videos in the summer. I don't usually prefer to, because even though it doesn't take that long, it is kind of tiring, and in the summer it's more difficult to come up with ideas for videos, so I don't want to really push them out more than one a day. But now I have time because I usually start at 5:30 and post it at 9, so that is enough time to make a video. Typically, it doesn't really leave me much time to do anything else in the day after I get to school, but I don't mind that. I do really enjoy making videos, and everything between like maybe 8:30 when I finish the video, and after that, I do have time to do other things. Do you think it would be cool if Titans would be added into the Arrowverse? Yes. Do you watch any shows besides superhero shows? I do, actually. I watch Game of Thrones, Rick and Morty, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, just to name a few. Hi, which CW show is your favorite? Hello, and my favorite CW show is definitely Arrow, with The Flash being a very, very close second. What will be the status of the Arrowverse after Crisis on Infinite Earths? I think that the status of the Arrowverse will be the same as the status of the DC Universe after Crisis on Infinite Earths, or at least they should do this, which is the merging of every universe in the multiverse into one universe, making everything more simple, making it so that certain characters like Superman and Supergirl can be on the same universe as Green Arrow and The Flash. And in terms of characters like Green Arrow, he probably won't be a major character after this point. The Flash and Supergirl might die. The whole multiverse will be so different, and the whole show, every show, will be completely different. And I think the only show that will be largely unaffected is probably Batwoman, as well as maybe The Flash, although considering Barry died in Crisis on Infinite Earths, The Flash might be largely affected as well. But I don't think Batwoman will be largely affected, because this is only going to be going into its first season after this crossover. What top 5 characters would you add to the Arrowverse? Well, excluding Batman, because he already exists in the Arrowverse, only mentioning characters that don't exist, I would include Wonder Woman, obviously. I would include Green Lantern. I would include Shazam. I would include Aquaman. And I think the 5th character I would include is probably Blue Beetle, because I do really like Blue Beetle. And I'm talking more about Jaime Reyes, but I do think Ted Kord should appear as well. Will you review Legend of Tomorrow again? Probably not. And the reason for that is not only because it conflicts with my schedule, which is something that I mentioned earlier. That's definitely something. But in the latter half of Legends of Tomorrow, it doesn't, because most of the season will be out when all the other shows aren't really airing anymore. It probably won't conflict with much of my schedule. But the reason I'm not going to review it anymore is because it's not a superhero TV show anymore. It's a comedy, and I don't review comedies because comedies are 100% subjective. What am I supposed to say? This was funny, and that's all I really can say. If you look at my channel, the only thing I ever reviewed that isn't superhero related is Star Wars The Last Jedi, and you can argue that the Jedi are actually superheroes, so I'm not going to review Legend of Tomorrow anymore, not because it only conflicts with my schedule, but also because it's a comedy, and I don't typically review comedies. Would you rewrite Arrow Season 4 if it meant Arrow Season 5, 6, and 7 would completely change? This is an incredible question, probably the best question anybody has ever asked me in a Q&A, because it's such like a moral dilemma. Would I change Season 4 if it meant that mainly Season 5 would be completely different? Because let's say Laurel didn't die in Season 4, which that is something I would change. That would mean that in Season 5, that is not a major plot point in that season, but it would also mean that Black Siren would never be a character in Arrow. It would also mean that Donna Drake, who is, in my opinion, kind of an improvement over Laurel, would never be a character. So it's really kind of a moral dilemma. Not really moral. It's just a question that is hard for me to answer. If I could personally rewrite the entire thing myself, obviously, yes, I would kill off Felicity. I would make it so that Laurel now has powers, and I would make it so that Laurel and Oliver are together, and I would not make Damien Dark the main villain. If I could rewrite the whole thing, yes, but if I could just have one switch that makes Season 4 good, and that would completely change 5, 6, and 7, I am not sure. But I do think if Arrow didn't have Season 4, the memory of the whole show would be so much more positive than it is right now. So I would say probably yes, I would rewrite Season 4. 5 would have, even if it meant Season 5 as well as 6 and 7 would be completely different. Obviously, this doesn't mean necessarily that Season 5, 6, or 7 would be bad. In fact, I think this change would probably make Season 6 much, much better. But Season 5, and probably 7 as well, probably wouldn't be as good, as a huge part of why Season 5 is so good is the huge, huge rebound from Season 4. All the plot points from Season 4 that were just left in the air were resolved in Season 5, and they were written so much better. I feel like they completely had a different team behind the show for Season 5 compared to Season 4. So if Season 4 was good, they probably wouldn't have a great resolution to any of those storylines, or they probably would have resolved those storylines in Season 4. Some certain storylines wouldn't work, but I do think Prometheus would still work. So in conclusion to all this question, to this question that is probably the best question ever asked in any of these Q&As, I would say probably yes, I would rewrite Season 4. How would you arrange the order of movies in the DC Extended Universe? I would do it like this. Suicide Squad, Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel, and Wonder Woman are tied for second place, and way, way above them, way above all of them, the first amazing movie in the DCEU is Aquaman. Favorite DC comic out right now? I said this before, but currently, ever since Rebirth started, my favorite comic has been Green Arrow. I get genuinely excited every 2 weeks, or however often they release an issue, to read that issue. It's great. I think if Arrow was basically exactly like this comic, minus all of the SJW part of Green Arrow, which works in the comics because it doesn't get annoying, but on a show, it definitely would not work. But if they were the exact same thing outside of that, Arrow would be a perfect TV show. So Green Arrow in the comics is my favorite comic run at this point. Sadly, it is getting canceled after issue 50, but hopefully they reboot it, or they start with a new #1 issue instead of just leaving Green Arrow out to dry and never using him for a while. When was the last time you cried watching one of the Arrowverse TV shows? Well, the last time an Arrowverse death scene or an emotional scene had any emotional impact on me was Quentin Lance's death scene in Arrow Season 6's finale. I don't think I cried, but I definitely was very emotional in that episode. What do you think about the Joker movie that is coming out this year? Well, I'll say it like right now. I have no interest in this movie, and I already hate it. It's just like Venom. You can't have a Venom movie without Spider-Man, or at least you can't introduce Venom without introducing Spider-Man first and having Venom a villain to Spider-Man. Similarly, you cannot have Joker without the Batman. And apparently in this universe, Batman's like 8 years old at the time of Joker becoming the Joker, which is ridiculous. It's so ridiculously stupid. On top of that, I don't think the Joker actually looks good. I don't like his look, like the makeup on the Joker. I don't think it looks good. Now, I've heard that Joaquin Phoenix is incredible in this movie, which is fine, but the movie's already flawed from the get-go that I already know I will not like the Joker. On a scale from 1 to 10, how excited are you for Crisis on Infinite Earths? I am very, very excited. It's probably the most anticipated thing in the Arrowverse ever because, like I said earlier, Crisis on Infinite Earths is perfect for an Arrowverse that mainly focuses on the Green Arrow, but also mainly the Flash and Supergirl. So I am very excited for this. I wouldn't say I'm excited like 10 out of 10 because I would say my expectations for Elseworlds were so incredibly high that it did kind of disappoint me like a little bit, especially with part 3. So I will keep my expectations maybe at 9, not at 10, but I am hoping that this Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover will be the best yet, and it will be an incredible multiverse-shattering crossover. Who is your favorite Green Lantern? Mine is Hal Jordan. Well, I would say it's probably a tie between John Stewart and Hal Jordan. John Stewart was the Green Lantern that I grew up on. I didn't really know much about Hal Jordan as a kid because I watched Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. At this point, I've seen Hal Jordan probably more than I have seen John Stewart. Stewart's not really used much outside of Justice League Unlimited and Justice League cartoons from the early 2000s. Now, it's always Hal Jordan, but I still do think John Stewart is just as good as Hal Jordan, so I would say it's probably a tie between both. So Itamar Alon asked me 6 different questions, and considering this guy is actually one of my oldest fans, I do remember him from where he says my first Batman references video from all the way back in May 2017. I will try to answer all 6 of your questions. First of all, where did the name Black Line come from? Well, I said earlier my last name is Schwartz, so that's where Black comes from, and I'm not going to give away my first name just yet, so you could guess in the comments down below. 2, if Felicity would change her name to Laurel or Diana and become the Black Canary, what would be your opinion about the character? Obviously, if she was Laurel or Black Canary from the start, I would like her with Oliver more than anything, but I would still not like her because the actress is real bad, especially in like dramatic scenes. She's funny, but Black Canary is not a funny character. She would not work with the Black Canary character. So third question, have you heard about Techosaurus's Arrowverse fan game, Crisis on Earth 1? If you did, what are your thoughts? I have heard about it. In fact, I am subscribed to Techosaurus. I am kind of excited for this game. I do think it looks pretty good, like good enough for like the small team and small budget that they have, and I am pretty interested in the game. So number 4, what do you think about Charlie on Legends compared to Amaya, and do you miss Nate on the team? I do not like Charlie because she's an original character and she is just an excuse to bring back the actress that they did not need to bring back. I don't understand these shows, why they have the need to bring back these actors for absolutely no reason. Amaya herself, I did kind of like as a character, even though she is kind of an original character, but I do think after Season 2 she should have left, or at least after Season 3, the actress should have left, and I really don't like Charlie. In terms of, do I miss Nate on the team? Not really, because the team right now is, it's lame, even with Nate. He never does anything anyway. He doesn't ever steal up for the most part. So no, I don't really care that much about Legends of Tomorrow anymore, so I don't really care that Nate is not on the team. But fifth question: what is your favorite episode on every Flash? What is your favorite episode on every season of The Flash? And apparently I have to... What is your favorite episode on every season of The Flash? And apparently I have to exclude Enter Flash Time, even though that is not only my favorite episode of Season 4, but also my favorite episode of The Flash ever. But fine, in Season 1, my favorite episode is Out of Time. In Season 2, it's Enter Zoom. In Season 3, it's probably Invasion, or possibly Wrath of Savitar. In Season 4, it is Enter Flash Time, but if you want me to exclude that, then it might be Think Fast. And in Season 5 so far, it is Elseworlds Part 1. If I'm including or excluding crossovers is what I meant to say, then it would be What's Past is Prologue so far. And the last question: can you rank the best episodes of every season of Arrow? Yes, I definitely can. Season 1, it is Sacrifice. Season 2, it's Three Ghosts. Season 3, it is The Brave and the Bold. Season 4, it is Haunted. Season 5, it is Lian Yu. Season 6, it is Fundamentals. And Season 7, so far, is The Slab Side Redemption. If you want me to rank them, then I would say the worst of these is easily Haunted, and then The Brave and the Bold, and then Fundamentals, and then after that, it would be probably Three Ghosts, and then Sacrifice, then The Slab Side Redemption, and then Lian Yu. What's your favorite costume in the Arrowverse? I don't think I have one clear favorite. If I really had to choose, it would probably be the Flash's Season 4 costume, but there are so many other great costumes that are basically just as good, like Green Arrow Season 5 costume and Season 6 and 7, which is the same costume. You have Valor / Monel's costume from Supergirl Season 3. I think that costume's incredible. You have Arsenal's costume from Season 3, which he wore also in Season 4. I love that costume. Batwoman's costume, I think, is great. Definitely the best first costume for any superhero. I think the Monitor's suit is incredibly comic book accurate, that it is a great costume. There are a number of great costumes in the Arrowverse, and if I really had to choose my favorite, probably The Flash Season 4, which is why I miss it so much. Are there any signs of a Batman TV show coming after the Elseworlds crossover? This is a definite no. Is there any sign of a Batman TV show coming out after the Elseworlds crossover? This is a definite no. They're not going to use Batman anytime soon. The Elseworlds crossover was intended to set up Batwoman as a character. Now, me personally, I think after the Elseworlds crossover, I'm still way more interested in the Batman, not only Batman in general, which obviously, but Batman in this universe. The lore they created surrounding him and everything that they created surrounding him is already more interesting than the Batwoman we already saw, even though we've never seen Batman. And now Batman will probably never appear on Batwoman, at least in the first season, because the CW said they have no intention on using him in the first season, which is either because they don't want to and they want to focus more on Batwoman, or, and this is more likely, Warner Brothers just doesn't allow it. It's possible that Batman will eventually show up, like in the first episode of Season 2 maybe, similarly to how they did with Superman, but if he does, he will not show up very often, because similarly to Superman, he will 100% overshadow Batwoman, which is a flaw in having a TV show about Batwoman or Supergirl or any character who was created to be a female version of the more famous male character. If those characters are the main characters of the show and the male character who is more famous and more loved shows up, they will overshadow that said main character. So that is a huge flaw in having these shows without having a companion show like Batman and Superman to Batwoman and Supergirl. What are you more excited for, Crisis on Infinite Earths or Avengers Endgame? I think this is a pretty easy Avengers Endgame, and I don't think there's really that many people who are more excited for Crisis on Infinite Earths than Avengers Endgame. And I mean, I was much more excited for Avengers Infinity War than I was for whatever the Arrowverse crossover was going to be last year, which turned out to be Elseworlds, which I obviously didn't know at the time when Infinity War came out or before it came out. But even though this time around we do know, next year they're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths and they're doing Avengers Endgame over at Marvel, and I do think Avengers Endgame will undoubtedly be better than Crisis on Infinite Earths. Just comparing their predecessors, Avengers Infinity War is better than Elseworlds, and there's really no arguing against that. So Avengers Endgame will most likely be better than Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's not really complaining about Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's just the Arrowverse is not as high quality as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I still love both of them, though. Do you think it's possible that some Arrow characters will join other Arrowverse shows after the death of Oliver? Well, first of all, that is just assuming that Oliver will die, which I am not certain he will, and if he does die and Arrow ends, probably not. I don't really see any of those other characters going to anywhere else. I mean, the only show that's going to be left is The Flash and Batwoman, and I highly doubt Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and probably Arrow will be left after that, and I just don't see any of those characters moving on to those other shows. Maybe somebody in or on Arrow moves to Gotham City and joins Batwoman, or maybe one of them moves to Central City, but in terms of the tones of the shows and the characters, I don't see that happening. But all this is assuming that Oliver will die, which I'm not certain, and I don't think he will. If there's one thing you could change about the DC Extended Universe that you think would make it as good as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what would it be? There's really not one change, but I think the changes that they really need to do, such as getting a guy like Kevin Feige who really knows and loves these characters, who has a vision for a 22-film story with a bunch of different franchises all coming together for a movie like Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. At the end, develop the universe and characters more naturally and really make these characters beloved like the Marvel Cinematic Universe did. The way they should do this is just to start over with a reboot. I think they should do what reboots did in the past with DC, which is get rid of the things that don't work, keep the things that do, keep Aquaman. Jason Momoa was great. Keep Wonder Woman. People love Wonder Woman. And keep Shazam. He looks like he's going to be good. But they need to reboot Batman. They need to reboot Superman. They need to reboot Cyborg, and especially The Flash, because for Superman and Batman, the actors don't want to do this anymore, and they left the role. Cyborg was, I mean, they don't really need to reboot Cyborg and replace him, but he wasn't great. Flash, they really need to reboot that guy, so just keep the things that work, get rid of the things that don't work, and start over, this time more naturally, and get a guy like Kevin Feige who really knows what he's doing. What was your inspiration for doing YouTube? I don't know about inspiration. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber. I've watched YouTube like when I was a kid and when I was younger, and I thought that was so cool that they got to make videos and that got to be their job, and I always wanted to do something like that, which I've tried it before when I was way younger. I made some crap videos in the past, and I did stop for a couple years, but when I was in, I think, 10th grade, in the year 2017, I looked up a video called Arrowverse All Batman References, and it's a video that wasn't on YouTube. So I thought I would make it, and I made it, and it got some traction, it got a lot of views, and I made another one, Green Lantern, I made one for Aquaman, one for Blue Beetle, and I made more and more of those videos, and that grew in audience, and I made top 10s, I made reviews, things like that, and I think what you really need to do if you want to start a channel is think of something that nobody else has done, and create that video. Like if you're looking up a video on YouTube and it doesn't exist, then why don't you just create it yourself? That's what I did, and so far it has worked for the most part. DC TV or Arrowverse, I'm going to guess you meant DCEU, and that's Arrowverse. Marvel or DC, DC, Iron Man or Batman, Batman, Quicksilver or Flash, Flash, Darkseid or Thanos, probably Thanos, just because Thanos in Infinity War is better than any other version of Darkseid I've seen. So Thanos. Deadpool or Deathstroke, definitely Deathstroke. I like Deathstroke a lot more than Deadpool. To end off this video, I will answer the question that is asked in basically every Q&A, which makes sense considering every Q&A has a couple months gap between each one and the answers do vary, and that question is, when do you think the Arrowverse shows will end, which is a fitting answer to the end of this video, or a fitting question for the end of this video. I think that Arrow will end after Season 8. I used to think it was Season 7, but after watching this season and considering Crisis on Infinite Earths is coming out next year, and Arrow will be a part of that, and he might die in that, I think Season 8 might be Arrow's final season. Supergirl, I think, will go till Season 5, same reason as Arrow, although this season might possibly be its last season as well. It's most likely going to be Season 5. Legends of Tomorrow has the biggest chance of being canceled after this season. In fact, I would probably bet on it that Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 will be its final season. And The Flash, I'm just going to guess it's going to go all the way till maybe Season 10. If it lasts that long, if it doesn't, then probably around Season 8, similar to Arrow. So anyway, that is it for this Q&A. Thank you guys so much again for 20,000 subscribers, and here's to 20,000 more. And as always, thanks for watching.